That's why they are turning to influencers to try to tell you not to look that way. Candace is crazy. Oh my gosh, like Candace must have made this up. But the people that are in power are not telling you that I made this up, even when they are given the opportunity to do so. They are choosing to stay silent, okay? We should continue down that path. Who wanted Charlie Kirk dead the most and why?
Candace Owens just slammed the FBI for remaining silent in response to her claims about Charlie Kirk's assassination and the French assassination attempt that she talked about against her. And this is ironic, especially because Kash Patel, the FBI director, was directly pressed to answer as to whether these claims are being investigated. And let's just say we didn't get a lot of answers as to that one from Patel. What do you know? We haven't gotten a museum to the deep state yet either. But let's see what Candace Owens has to say about this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
What do you guys think Charlie Kirk would have said about his own assassination? Just think about that. What would his perspective have been on everything that we are currently being told, the people that are being attacked about it? I think about that actually often, and listening to his perspectives regarding political assassinations of the past, in retrospect, really is something. So at one of his, honestly, one of his last events in May of this year, Charlie was directly asked his opinion regarding John F. Kennedy's assassination down in Dallas, and here is what Charlie had to say.
In the JFK files, Mossad is mentioned. One of the reasons why Mossad is mentioned so much is that they're just a very good intelligence operation. It was not mentioned as if they were tied or that they knew about it or that they were involved. Again, I think the best reading of what happened there is who wanted JFK dead the most. Again, a lot of people said Israel wanted JFK dead. I'd love to hear that argument. But definitely Lyndon Baines Johnson and parts of our own government and the Cubans wanted him dead. And who actually made it happen? There were like 15 or 20 things that happened that day that were inexcusable. They changed the parade route. He rode in an open-air convertible. LBJ decided not to ride alongside of him. The vehicle slowed down right when it went by the Texas School Book Depository. A lot there, right? And then, again, I think that all of us are smarter to believe that it was simply Lee Harvey Oswald. The more important question is not, oh, who did it? We have to first acknowledge it that more than one person did it. Yeah. Once we acknowledge that more than one person did it, then we can expose our government to have lied to us about the JFK assassination, which then I think will sober a lot of us about trusting the government in the future.
Well, there you go. That's especially ironic given the claims that a lot of people have that you're just a conspiracy theory if you don't see anything odd in the FBI narrative about Charlie Kirk. And just to answer that and provide some clarity here, I can talk about the theory that Israel killed JFK real quick. There's competing theories, some of which favor that the CIA was involved, some that favor that Israel was involved, but the main two things that point to Israeli involvement, and there is some things in the JFK files recently released that at least point to this or entertain this, but JFK tried to get the precursor to AIPAC, it was called the AZC back then, the American Zionist Council, to register under FARA, and you can find disclosed correspondence from the JFK administration to this organization saying, hey, here's how to register, go do it, something that the Israel lobby didn't and still doesn't want to do. And he also tried to shut down the Israeli nuclear weapons program because the Israelis had stolen technology from the United States to build their nuke program, which they still don't acknowledge exists. But in the 60s, JFK did whatever he could to try to shut that down. That's also well documented, and why a lot of people think that JFK was killed, at least in part, through an Israeli conspiracy.
I mean, yes, all of that. Thank you, Charlie Kirk, for reminding us that you had common sense, that you didn't accept force-fed narratives, that you did not accept the BS crap that our government has sold us regarding the one individual that was involved in JFK's assassination. Of course, multiple people were involved and a lot of strange things occurred on that day. That is what makes his answer there so compelling, okay? Especially in the midst of, well, MK Ultra 2.0. Remember, the first government psyop on the people, MK Ultra, what actually came together. Sorry, I should say Mockingbird 2.0, the first government psyop on the people following JFK's assassination. Mockingbird 1.0 to convince everybody through influence that there was nothing to see here, even though there was so much to see there. And now it's being deployed again. Operation Mockingbird 2.0 to convince people that questions about the Charlie Kirk narrative are just crazy.
Yeah, it just makes you laugh when so many people that are adhering down the line on every aspect to the FBI narrative that are coming forward and saying, well, what would Charlie say if you actually want to explore this thing? And it's like, we don't have to wonder now because he himself questioned a Fed's lone nut narrative and said we need to understand that more people were involved than Oswald. But, we're being told that, Charlie wouldn't want this. And it's like, you're speaking for the dead and he's on record disputing lone nut theory, so it doesn't exactly compute if you have two brain cells.
Right? How dare you consider that there may have been employees at Turning Point USA who could be engaged in an obvious cover-up at this moment? Well, Pastor Frank Turek says that's so crazy because that would mean that Charlie Kirk hired people that ultimately betrayed him, and no one's ever been betrayed by people that they trust in the history of the world. Okay, well, actually, maybe that did happen for Jesus Christ. That's just one historical example of...
Yeah, Judas Iscariot jumped into my mind just immediately when she said that, and that's, the quintessential story of betrayal. And it can be applied to a lot of people. A lot of people are betrayed by those close to each other, whether or not Turning Point had foreknowledge or were involved in a plot that ultimately killed Charlie. That's an open question. I think it's fair to debate that. But there's no harm in investigating it because we know the FBI doesn't investigate. They just conduct psyops and kill people like they did at Waco and Ruby Ridge. And they wiretap distance like they did in COINTELPRO. We should not trust them by default. And thankfully, more and more Americans are realizing that.
A person surrounded by somebody that they trust who would ultimately betray them. And yes, JFK, who personally selected Lyndon Baines Johnson to be his vice president, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was clearly implicated in JFK's assassination. Charlie rightfully says that is obvious by now. So yeah, it's all very plausible. Oh, and Charlie, you can see, does not readily dismiss the idea that the Mossad may have been involved. He says he'd like to hear more of an argument on that, as he asserts that definitively parts of our government had to have been involved. And he says the Cubans, the commies, wanted him dead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this, many different angles. They've all been hashed out through time, but read about Garrett Underhill, a CIA officer that said, I have information that a small cabal of CIA officers were involved in Kennedy's assassination. Jim Garrison was even trying to and about to interview him when, guess what happened? He mysteriously died. They said it was a suicide, but it was odd because he was right-handed. They found a gunshot wound to the left side of his head and the gun on the left side of his head where he was dead, never able to be interviewed. But there's stories like this that all add up to a possible conspiracy that are mostly unexplored by the mainstream. And dissidents have talked about it forever, but the lone nut narrative in JFK is one reason why, in the American psyche, we don't just innately trust the FBI or the CIA on this stuff.
Charlie is encouraging the inquiry further. Who wanted JFK dead the most? Okay, well, we should continue down that path. Who wanted Charlie Kirk dead the most and why? And Charlie was very much in the political fast lane. Okay, and in the political fast lane, they want you dead for really one or all of these three reasons: money, secrets, and or power. We know that Charlie said no to money right before he died. I think that means he probably knew a secret right before he died. And there is no doubt that his youth political organization had achieved a considerable amount of political power. Could there have been global implications? Of course. People are laughing. They've been laughing this entire time. because just following the evidence of what transpired on that day, a lot of odd things that transpired on that day, just like on the day of JFK's assassination, well, that pointed us into the direction of a particular satellite of countries and continents that have somehow come up in this investigation. I'll paint that for you now. Yes, we have mentioned France. Yes, we have mentioned Israel. Yes, we have mentioned the United States government. And yes, we have mentioned Egypt, which is in Africa. Wow, that seems crazy.
I'll just note she's also mentioned Ukrainian influence potentially in Charlie Kirk's assassination. It's hard for me to believe that all 5 of those countries could be involved in a singular plot, but at the same time, more power to her for exploring these things, raising the findings. There's nothing illegal or immoral about that, and if you're the dead and you're facing an FBI lone nut narrative, I would assume that I would want my friends to explore that too, and certainly Charlie Kirk deferred in that direction when talking about JFK.
People also laughed when I said that there was thereafter a viable threat, which came from the Macron couple who apparently paid for my assassination. And yet, strangely, neither the Pentagon nor the White House or our intel agencies or the Élysée Palace are disputing that narrative. And now we can add officially the FBI to that list of agencies that aren't denying that threat, because Kash Patel recently gave an interview to Megyn Kelly, and like an actual journalist and not a cutesy, wootsy influencer like Camp Higby, don't laugh, Megyn Kelly asked him directly about the Macron couple and about the allegation that they attempted to orchestrate an assassination on my life, and of course, whether or not they could have been involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, which I have said, right? Here is what Kash Patel says in response, or rather what he doesn't say in response. Take a listen.
There's been an allegation made by prominent podcaster Candace Owens that she's received a death threat, a credible death threat from the French, that a threat has been made on her life, and that the French, she's been told, also may have had a role in Charlie's assassination. Have you looked into either of those? Do you believe she's received a credible death threat from the French, or that the French had something potentially to do with Charlie's death?
Any American that receives a death threat from overseas or anywhere in America is going to be fully investigated. So we're not going to turn our eye away from that investigation or any others. If there's anything to it, this FBI will respond to it.
Notice how he didn't actually answer the question. He just gave a boilerplate response about how the FBI handles information rather than answering Megan's question about whether the French had a role in Charlie's assassination or there's any truth to the allegation that they hired a hitman to kill Candace Owens, as she tweeted about. Doesn't address those questions at all. Just gives a boilerplate response that doesn't address it.
Okay, but so far, no.
So we are just looking at everything that comes in. We're not going to reject any piece of information. If someone feels that their life is being threatened, we are, of course, looking at it.
Okay, so he didn't address the question, didn't answer it, didn't say that he's looking into her claims specifically, but at the same time, there's something in not just lashing out against it and denying it and portraying it as a conspiracy theory, as so many people are online. And I'm not saying listen to the FBI director about anything at this point. They covered up a child sex trafficking ring and the Epstein files, right? So don't trust them, but it is telling when they're not going to deny it. It would put them in a harder place if they did deny it, and then you had like a whistleblower produce proof that they had, been informed of it, looked into it, and maybe there's some credence there. So that's what we got from Kash Patel.
Do you want to involve me in you looking at it? Because actually, it kind of left me on red. There has been no communication with the FBI. You are aware right there. Megyn Kelly is asking you directly about it, so you can't pretend you didn't receive it. And you are choosing to skip over. He completely skips over the part about me having asserted, which Megyn asks him directly, was France involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination? He doesn't even address that. Skips right over it and instead says, if any American has a threat, that's what we're here for. And she's like, okay, but was there actually a threat on if anybody, let's just kind of state it more broadly, we will take it seriously. Well, you're not doing that, Kash Patel. And I find it very odd that I said that I had proof that the government of France was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, that they were on the ground that day, and you have not reached out to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is so accurate. She has the proper response here completely. How can we look at this with anything other than an eyebrow raise? And hey, props to Megyn Kelly. I don't agree with her on a lot, especially on the Israel issue. You know, she seems to be too much of a Trump cultist for my taste. But at the same time, asking these direct questions, that was a good line of questioning. She didn't get any answers. Maybe she could have pressed even harder a third time. She did ask a second time. Kash Patel being evasive, as an FBI director always is. They're all trained to do that and not give away the deep state murder fest game. But at the same time, Megyn asked the question, so I'll give her props for that.
In this very interview that you are asserting that you are certain that Tyler Robinson is the only person involved, how can you be certain if you are not reaching out to people that claim to have verifiable evidence which could dispute that narrative? Does it seem to you like he's telling the truth there? Does it seem to you like he's being open and he's being transparent? Or does it seem like he's intentionally being cagey because he knows that I am telling the truth, despite the many millions of dollars that is being spent on this Operation Mockingbird 2.0 campaign? Kash Patel knows that I am telling the truth. That's why they are turning to influencers to try to tell you not to look that way. Candace is crazy. Oh my gosh, like Candace must have made this up. But the people that are in power are not telling you that I made this up, even when they are given the opportunity to do so. They are choosing to stay silent, okay?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that is the case. We know that it's not true that they're investigating all the leads, by the way, contrary to Kash Patel's statement here in a long tweet he had about this several weeks ago where he said, hey, every lead will be followed. There'll be no stone unturned. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Even many of the angles being brought up on the internet about inconsistencies in the narrative or angles that haven't been addressed yet. Well, how about just the George Zinn thing? Are you going to comment on that? Are you going to comment about why someone said that they killed Charlie Kirk and then yelled, shoot me? Then once they were in the police department, that they said, no, I didn't shoot him. I just said that I shot him so that the real killer could get away. That doesn't actually raise any kind of suggestion that this might be more than you are portraying it as. Not at all. And beyond that, guess what happened? Back in, I think I want to say late last month, there was a story out there that Joe Kent, one of the top subordinates of Tulsi Gabbard in the intelligence community, one of her top lieutenants, brought forward a file, multiple files actually, to Kash Patel and said, hey, this is some information that possibly includes knowledge containing information regarding foreign influence in the Charlie Kirk assassination. He had apparently several files from foreign entities indicating possible foreign influence in this assassination plot. Gave it to Kash Patel, and guess what? Kash Patel said, no, this is going to jeopardize our case. We're not going to look into it. This is actually pretty widely reported. Basically on my screen, it's having a hard time displaying this on the New York Times site right now because of ads, but here's the story. Basically, Joe Kent brought these leads to Kash Patel and they weren't pursued. So we know that not every lead is pursued. In contradiction to what he said, the FBI doesn't take anything other than its lone nut narrative seriously. They say it will compromise the case. Well, guess what? If your case is built on quicksand, it should be destroyed. It should be eliminated. And no prosecutor that has any iota of integrity or character should bring that case to court and prosecute a defendant if you do believe that there's more to it than what is there. And to be frank, I think that there might be a conspiracy involving Tyler Robinson. I don't think that's the craziest idea. I know some people will say, oh, you're just controlled opposition, and you got the call, they got to you too. But, you know, I think that it's worth at least entertaining that the conspiracy is large, but some of the details might be accurate. So that's what we got here. You can't trust the FBI. Candace Owens is right about that. Charlie Kirk is right to question lone nut narratives, as we should have when it came to Oswald, as we should have when it came to the Martin Luther King assassination. That is just what you're going to get out of federal investigations. The feds investigated it, and it's always a lone nut with no connections to anyone, especially no connections to the deep state, right? But that's what we get. So bravo, Candace Owens. Thanks for leading this fight. keep digging, keep on it, keep that relentless attitude that you have that makes you so superior in every way compared to all of your detractors put together. Like, you know, when Tim Pool came out and said, hey, we're all divided and it's all Candace Owens' fault. It's like, no, the right is divided, and it's Donald Trump and his closest coadjutors' fault for covering up a child sex trafficking ring, launching a new war in Iran, not shutting down the war in Ukraine, passing a new bill to add $5 trillion additional dollars to the debt, scrapping Doge, not even entertaining any semblance of being real about saving the taxpayers' money and eliminating waste. How about those things? That seems to be the catalyst for division, not Candace Owens, who wants to find answers for her dead friend. That's what you have there. But what do you guys think? Do you think Candace Owens is right about this? What does this mean about lone nut narratives in general? What do you think about JFK? Do you think that Kash Patel needs to go? Is he just being too evasive? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, also subscribe to Candace Owens. Keep it going, Candace. Love to see your content. Great segment here. And if you like this video and, you know, maybe my take on it, please consider joining as a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button below. And if you do that, you'll gain immediate access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. You'll be able to watch those members only videos immediately if you do, and I really appreciate it if you support me that way. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. It'll send you off to a website. You just plug in your email and I'll send you a PDF copy of that book completely free of charge, no obligation, just because I appreciate you watching. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.